Well, God bless you one and all, and welcome back to the Bishop's Corner. And of course, I'm your host for tonight, and my name is Bishop Dr. Herbert N. Scott, the Chief Prelate of the Liberty Hall Cathedral of Praise right here in the heart of Brooklyn. And we'd also want to thank God for the man of God himself, Philip Reed, who is affectionately known as Dr. Phil, and he happens to be the visionary of the Bishop's Corner. Just want to say to Dr. Phil is this: man of God, grace will announce your greatness. Mercy will usher you to the table of upliftment. Favor will settle you, and your feet will not stumble. And God will take you to places of honor. It's just a matter of time. We have a special program for you tonight, but let me just welcome at this time those that are on the panel. We want to thank God at this time for the lovely Dr. Dolores Ben that is with us tonight. Woman of God, certainly it's a pleasure to have you on. Next, we want to thank God for the man of God himself, Pastor Richard McKenzie Jr. that is with us tonight. Certainly, young man, it's a pleasure. Next, we have the lovely Colleen Reed, the woman of God. Thank you very much for weighing in on the Bishop's Corner. And tonight we are blessed that we have Father K. Angela that's with us tonight. And he will be telling us a little about what's happening there in Ukraine and tell us how we can help, because these people over there, they are suffering and they are our brothers and sisters. And love is not just a matter of talk, but a matter of doing. So at this time, we want to hear from our Father. Explain to us what's happening there and how we can be a blessing from over here. It's in your hands, sir. Father Angelo, could you please unmute?
I think he might be frozen, Bishop.
Yeah.
Let's continue. When he comes back, we'll give him a chance.
Okay, not a problem indeed. Well, tonight we have, as I said, a very, very special program, part 3. Are we what we eat? Are we what we eat? The health matrix, food that helps us fight against sickness, food that helps us to fight against sickness. And we want to thank God for Colleen. She is the woman that has got all the answers. A woman of God. We are so happy tonight that we indeed will be hearing from you. So at this time, before we hear from Colleen, okay, Father Angelo, are you there now? Can
Yes.
you come on in, sir?
Yes. Yes. So I was saying that Ukraine young.
Something's happening. The devil is.
Thank you. The invitation to be with you tonight. And I would like it to start of a season. Made of your peace. There's that. Let me saw. There's darkness, light, and where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love, for it is in giving that we receive, and it's in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. In those days, and for the last 2 weeks exactly, when Ukraine was attacked by the aggressor, by Russia, our people are so, let me share that 75-80% of my parishioners are they're having family members in Ukraine, and it's so hard for them, to watch what is going on with the war in Ukraine. Have brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, and very close families, and it's especially for the the young people and for the kids. They're looking and watching those TVs, how the aggressor is attacking, especially the hospitals, the schools, the innocent children are dying there, and because the little ones are going on a vacation every summer in Ukraine with their grandparents, and they're asking now the parents, are we going the same way this summer? It is so heartbreaking, but I don't know how to share with you. I was looking in the dictionary, in the vocabulary, to find a proper word, but it's I couldn't find it to explain what's going on. Only one thing is, it is nothing else but worse than an evil. For me, to say the expression evil, it's hard, but this is the truth. But with our prayers and sincere prayers, we will win over the evil. And I'm asking everyone tonight, first of all, for prayers. This is what Ukraine needs, prayers. Other thing is we're going to show you how we can help physically, with other materials. But the first help is prayer. And I know that the entire world is watching and praying. And those sincere prayers, they will be heard from the Almighty God. And one day, as let's say, if we are believing in a Good Friday, then Sunday morning it's coming. It's coming also the Holy Resurrection for Ukraine. My biggest concern, and it's hard even to swallow, when we were watching, yesterday in the city of Mariupol, when was attacked the hospital of the maternity. It was, something unbelievable. Unbelievable. But again, I'm asking for prayers, and I strongly believe that it's going to happen, that going to come the resurrection. What we are doing and how we're with our community. Last week, we collected quite a bit clothing, children's stuff, and we were lucky that we shipped last Saturday to Ukraine via Poland, and it's already they received. This week we are waiting, to see how the situation gonna go further. The Western Ukraine is still, let's say, it is quiet. It is not but it's better than in Eastern Ukraine. It's like the capital Kyiv and the rest, the Kharkiv. Kharkiv, it's they're saying this almost totally destroyed. Mariupol is totally destroyed. but here it's a little bit still better. And hopefully that we can send help to them. So with the good people here in Yonkers area, in Westchester County, and even from New York, all around the Bronx and this and that, we collected almost 2 trucks of goods. So I'm so thankful and grateful. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm saying to everyone, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your concern. Thank you for your prayers. This is the way how we're going to win, with the prayers. Other thing, what and how we can help, we'll see now. It's unbelievable that in 2 weeks of the war, we have already over 2 million refugees. Over 2 million refugees. Unthinkable. And they're expecting even more refugees in the next couple of days, next week. Probably going to go, I'm afraid to say, but it will be over 5 million. 5 million refugees. But as we are singing during the Christmas, we have a special service. We have a service that is saying, Emmanuel, God is with us. He is and he will be. With him, everything is possible. So, my brothers and sisters, again, I would like to say thank you. Thank you from my name and the name of my congregation of our parish here in Yonkers, New York.
Okay, Father Angelo, thank you very, very much for weighing in. And please be assured that we, on the Bishop's Corner, will definitely be praying. And every one of us here that's on the Bishop's Corner, we do represent a church. And our individual congregations, I'm sure, are praying for our brothers and sisters over there. It hurts. And each time I think about what my brothers and sisters are going through, it hits me right here. But be assured, my brother, that we are praying and we will come to the conclusion that the battle is not ours, but the battle is the Lord's. And the Lord has never, ever lost a battle. And also, I believe that the Bishop's Corner will be reaching out to you also financially. Okay? So thank you very, very much for coming on, and be sure that we are indeed praying. Thank you very much, sir. God bless you and much success. Bye-bye now. Okay, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are dealing with the health matrix, food that help to fight against sickness. When I was a lad in England growing up, my mother always offered me 2 choices when I sat at the dinner table. And the choices were these: take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. Nowadays, it's a different thing with our children. Oh, yes. So many fast food places and so forth. So many things that they have to eat and so forth. But we want to thank God tonight that we do have Colleen that is with us. And she has all the answers to our question. And we will begin with question number 1, Colleen. And then the panel can definitely weigh in. What are some of the natural remedies available that help to prevent or subdue some of the most common illnesses like diabetes or high blood pressure? Colleen, it's in your hands.
Well, the first remedy is self-care, taking care of yourself and eating properly. Now, if you've been abusing your body, right, then there are consequences for those actions. And what we do understand is that diabetes and high blood pressure are both stress related and they're not just dietary issues. So if you have chronic stress, and I think I mentioned that the last time I was on, that if you have chronic stress that is unmanaged, then eventually, because your body is pulling all that sugar towards your kidneys during that stressful period, if that does not turn off, eventually the doctor will give you a diagnosis of prediabetes, high blood pressure. And then if that goes unmanaged, you can have other related diseases that come about because stress is unmanaged. And one of the things that you have to recognize as well is that not every test that says your sugar level is high or that the sugar in your urine is high means that you're a diabetic. But these things need to be diagnosed by a doctor. So your blood sugar can be high, it can be low, it can be where you're not regulating the insulin that's in your blood. It can be where you have too much insulin in the blood, or the insulin level is just out of control. Now, when that happens, you need your diagnosis from your doctor to tell you where you are. You cannot, one of the things that happens a lot is a lot of people say, I got a diagnosis for diabetes. Okay. Where are you on the spectrum? Those are things that you need to ask your doctor. There's so many times when people call me up and they're saying, I have a diagnosis from diabetes. And then you start asking questions. And these are questions they didn't ask their doctor. So I want to encourage you to advocate for yourself. Ask the questions. Where am I on the spectrum? Is this the right medication for me? If my blood sugar is too high, is it just showing in my blood test, or is it showing in my blood and my urine? Is this truly diabetes, or is this something else? I just spoke to a girlfriend of mine who her husband's been struggling with diabetes for a long time. And he was told he had type 2 diabetes. And after 8 years being on insulin, now they're telling him it's not type 2, it's type 1.
Mm.
A misdiagnosis is a dangerous thing when you're talking about diabetes. So it's your responsibility to make sure you're asking the right questions. What type of diabetes do I have? What is being impacted? Are my kidneys fine? Is my liver fine? Is my thyroid functioning fine? Because thyroid misfunction can give misreadings and also give you a diagnosis of diabetes when it's not really the case. So it's important that we ask the proper questions when you're being diagnosed at your medical doctor's office. And again, I'm going to say, I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose you. I'm not going to, and I can't recommend herbs for certain things, because if you have a situation where your kidneys are now shrinking and you're now becoming incontinent, then it's a complicated situation.
Yes, it is.
And that's why I encourage people that the first step is self-care. Mm-hmm. It's not just about the consumption of sugar. It's about what are you eating in balance. When you look at the chart that says, here's my B complex, here is my potassium, my calcium, my magnesium, my manganese, all the things I need for bone health, for blood health, for brain health. Am I consuming those things in the proper quantity, or am I taking only supplements? And I'm not against supplements, but your food is your medicine. Your food is your food, and your food is your first line of defense. Because if you're not able to absorb it from food, then I think there's another issue that's occurring. So look at the foods that are out there. One of the things I was mentioning to Dr. Ben earlier is that when you look at the way the Caribbean folks used to make dumpling, and you look at the history of cooking, we never made dumplings with just white flour. Historically, that's not the way. It's once we had access to cornmeal and other flours, or people just dropped off. Like what used to happen is they used to use hominy corn, soak it overnight in hot water, strip off the skin, and then beat it the next day, and then mix that with flour, baking soda, and salt, and then they made dumplings. So what that did, it added more nutrition to your texture, your dough, and it fed the body better. As we got older, we realized, or we made more industrial progress, we eliminated that extra step, because making the extra step to eat healthier takes time. And taking that time is something we're not accustomed to. We like fast food, and fast means fast preparation.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's happening to us, we're eating a lot of white flour, which has been over processed, but there's no real protein and real food in it, because we've eliminated the steps that grandma used to do.
Okay, thank you very much, young lady. And we want to thank God for Bishop Dr. Neville Wolliston that just weighed in. And man of God, certainly it's a pleasure to have you once again on the Bishop's Corner. Colleen, would you say that herbal medicine is becoming more and more popular these days? Why is that?
Well, in the last 2 years, it got really popular because people wanted, when we saw on TV that the hospitals were overcrowded, and we saw a rise in distrust of hospital. When you talk to a lot of Caribbean folks and they saw how many people were dying, they were like, look, if I'm going to die from COVID, I'm going to die at home, but I'm going to take this and Caribbean term, I'm going to take this bush right here, right? And let me die with this bush, but I'm not making anybody push any tube down my throat and kill me off. So there has been a rise. And for instance, I'll give an example. I used to buy pleurisy root, Elicampe, and Mullein for Mom because she has certain allergies. And asthma is an allergy. And when she has an asthma attack, I can give her those herbs and it opens up the lungs so she can breathe. Now I could buy all three and spend $20. Now pleurisy root, since COVID, is $32 a pound. Elicampe is now $18 a pound. And Mullein is now $16 a pound. So it's gone up more than 400%.
Wow.
Because people used them effectively during that period to treat whatever came, because people didn't play. They went back to what they knew. And as soon as they felt something that felt like, look, my chest don't feel right, they brewed. And the thing to also bear in mind is that you can misuse any herb, just like you can misuse food. Because if your food is your medicine, you can overuse it and you can underuse it. Because if you take your pill from your doctor and your doctor says 3 pills 3 times a day, and you take 1 pill once for the day, the efficacy is not there. It's not going to be as effective as if you follow the instructions. And then, in Caribbean context, we like to take a handful of herbs and throw it in a pot of water and say, let it boil. And that's not the right way. Because like I said, when you go to the country areas, the urban areas, and they're making a pot of ginger tea, you wonder if it's the whole root they went outside and dug up to make this pot of tea, because you see them beating so much ginger. Mark you can make your ginger tea a little bit stronger, but you have to be able to drink it, right? When you make the thing so strong, you can't drink it. How effective is that? And that's part of learning how to use the same kitchen herbs grandma had to treat yourself. Because you remember, our medicine was in the kitchen. If you said to your grandmother or your mom back then, my stomach hurts, she would give you ginger or mint. And everybody had a little mint plant growing outside either along a fence or in a pot.
Mhm.
And then you have where if you had a headache, it was rosemary, or if you couldn't concentrate, it was they give you rosemary and something else. And then vanilla has a long history of being a medicinal herb, but it has lost, I wouldn't say favor, we just have lost that knowledge in how vanilla can be used as a medicine.
Well, let me say this honestly, since this COVID thing, honestly, a lot of our folks have been using things like ginger, coriander, garlic, and crushing it and adding water to it, allow it to boil with this skin and that skin and using it, and it worked. It worked. It worked, and so forth.
But I want to also point out, if 1% of the population got COVID, and of that 1%, only 1% got chronically sick, and the hospitals were overcrowded, God forbid we have a pandemic where it's 2%. How many of us can fit into the hospital for true? So your first line of defense, and that I recommend, is going back to your kitchen medicine. If you had pain, grandma used to mix black pepper in a little coconut oil, let it warm up, and rub the area. Seriously. And they've done studies now to prove that black pepper works. And now they're telling you take black pepper with what? Turmeric. So it's not that it doesn't work. I think what you have to gauge is your quantity of use and how you're using it. Because now you remember, we used to put pimento, rosemary, and ganja into rum. But then some people, when you look at what was in the bottle, you couldn't see the rest of the stuff because the ganja was so fat in there, right? And it's not that it doesn't alleviate pain, but what are you trying to cure? World peace? No, seriously. Seriously. These things work, but there is a way to use it. You know, we see historically from the papyrus elders that Egyptians used the ganja a lot for pain, for childbirth, but they had a methodology to it. What we find is our folks take a bunch of leaves and the bud, throw it in a pot of water, and they drink it. And then when they're sleeping off for 2-3 days, everybody's like, oh, they're dead. You've overused it.
One thing I like with you, Colin, is that you're so outspoken. You just call it as it is.
No, but you remember, your poison is in your dose.
Amen.
That is the absolute truth.
Okay, thank you.
Because if you overuse even rosemary in the kitchen, you can make yourself sick. And while rosemary is good for memory, it's good for cognitive balance. It, like you guys who preach, and you have to preach a cup of rosemary tea in the morning on Sunday before you start preaching, it's a good thing. It helps the brain. But if you're supposed to put 2 spoons of the powdered herb to 16 ounces of water, and then you put to 4 tablespoons and 8 ounces of water, too much. It's too much.
Gotcha.
Well, rosemary is good before you preach.
No, it's good for memory and cognitive resonance for the brain. I'm not saying it's going to help you preach better.
Just wondering if it helped with the anointing.
Okay, let me open it up to the panel because I'm sure that you've got some questions to ask Colleen.
I thoroughly enjoyed what you just said there, Colleen. Wonderful. What I wanted to interject, you made a very good point about first clarifying with your doctor to ensure that you know exactly what ails you. What I strongly recommend, and I've seen it work, is when folks go to their doctor, please take a notebook. You should have, as you spoke about self-care, We should have a notebook that when you walk into your doctor's office and they start talking to you, you write it down. And if they say words to you that you don't know, ask them to spell it and ask them what it means. There's so many people that, you know, when they leave the doctor's office, they would say, well, they gave me a pill or they gave me a shot. They have no clue. What's wrong? He said, and they're calling something, you can't even recognize the word. Right. Asking for advice. But if you were to write it down and just keep that book alone for when they draw your blood, what does it say? When you go to the doctor, what he says, and you keep that record, that's your personal record over time, so that is a part of self-care. And I just wanted to interject that because I love it. And I'm going to start giving my husband rosemary before he preaches.
Then Dr. Ben, you know the price is going to go up now, right? You know that, right? If we all start using it before we preach, the price going to go through the roof like everything else.
Yes, it will.
Yeah. No. One of the things too, you know, is ask the right questions. Ask. Amen. You know, apart from when you ask your questions, make sure they're answering what you need to know. Yes. And for instance, with high blood pressure, is it stress related or is this a failure of some other organ? Because high blood pressure without stress is really unlikely. But is it as a result of some other illness? So if I treat that illness, does it get rid of the high blood pressure? So, you know, don't be quick to, or let me not say it that way, because I'm not a doctor, but make sure you ask the question as to what the root cause is. What is the root cause of my particular problem? And if you can't get a specific answer, push for one. And some doctors get angry when you ask them questions. And if you find that the doctor is losing their temper with you for wanting to understand better what your illness is the wrong doctor.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
This is the wrong doctor. Because nobody is not a pimp. He shouldn't be pushing a pill on you.
That's right.
You shouldn't. And then ask, now for my particular issue, given what you've explained, how do we know that this is the right medication for me? Because one of the things that I detest is when you talk to 10 older people and everybody's on metformin.
Yes. I love it. One size fits all.
How is that?
Mm-hmm.
And then when the doctor is saying to you for years, you're pre-diabetic, but he's not explaining that it could be because you've been on high blood pressure medication for over 20 years that is bringing on the pre-diabetes because your kidneys are now failing.
Perfect. Well said.
I want you to ask those. My push with the folks on this presentation tonight is to get you to advocate for yourself. I personally, I shouldn't say tired, because I'm not unwilling to talk to anybody offline. But what I want you to do is ask your questions, get your answers. And it's unfortunate that the predominance of people struggling with high blood pressure and diabetes and pre-diabetes are people of color.
That's so true.
Yes.
And part of it is the stress, the PTSD of racism. Because if I go for my PhD and somebody else goes for their PhD, my experience, somebody gets coaching and I'm left on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're done, when a professor can ask you, how did you do this?
Mm-hmm.
That's a strange question. Aren't we here for everybody's success?
That's right.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And you know, just to tell you, when you send your kids to college, and I've been in college a few times, When you walk into a class and there are 32 people for a master's degree program, there are 8 people of color, and by the time you graduate, there's 2, and the man is gone. Yes. The one man that made it into the master's program is gone, and there's 2 women. Mm-hmm. There is something wrong with that picture.
That is so true. Just a sidebar, there was a study done by London University and London, Cambridge, and Harvard, to name a few. There were 7 of them. And what they determined was one of the factors when people of color migrated to the US from even the Caribbean, their health was equivalent to that of their Caucasian partners. And over a period of 10 years, their health steadily deteriorated to that of the average African American. And what they're saying, a part of that is the racism, and a part of that is stress.
Yeah. Sorry, and also because we change the quality of what we choose for food. Food quality is very, very important. Your kitchen is your first line of medicine, right? The less that you have in the distribution cycle is the healthier your food has the potential to be. Back to you, Dr. Ben. I'm done.
That was perfect. That was perfect. And you're very correct. And what they said is that stress level, where, let's say, for instance, you've got a young man, he's a janitor. How many people are above him? And everybody is giving him orders. He goes to a 9-to-5 day job, but he's being ordered by every single person. So they call him to the basement. There's a spill to clean it up. He's in the middle of cleaning it up. They call him back to the first floor. There is something wrong, and he's constantly running. Compare him to the manager who sits in his office and gives the orders. That's a different level of stress, but at least he is not being ordered around. When they measure the cortisol levels in these both individuals, that of the janitor was so high.
Yes.
That he was predisposed to hypertension.
And that, because you remember,
diabetes. Yes,
because
it's connected.
It's connected, because after a while, the stress on the pancreas, the kidneys, and the liver will affect the way you manage blood sugar. And then you can develop after that, unmanaged, kidney-related heart disease, kidney-related liver disease, dementia, because your brain also uses sugar. Yes. And when all the sugar keeps getting pulled to your stomach, which is where the cortisol is stored, you have foggy memory, you can't remember things, you're a little bit sluggish because that stress level is constant. It's constant. Now, how you manage it, you have to develop really good management structures in your own home, and it all depends on the dynamics of your home. But you also have to start, remember, if you're not taking the steps to relax and alleviate the stress, when you eat, you're not digesting the food. And the food not being digested becomes nothing but toxin in the body. So there is a cycle there that needs to be managed. And there's certain, like, if you drink your coffee and you're willing to put a little bit of ashwagandha in it, it will help your body manage the level of stress that you're dealing with. But if you're so stressed that every time you take the ashwagandha, it puts you to sleep, then do it in hot chocolate at night, or just, because if your body is so drained that when you consume this herb, it picks up that what you really need is some deep sleep, because this is where the body restores itself. then it's going to make you sleep. And you have to then take it when you need to sleep, because a lack of sleep is also another part of it, because the body was made with a circadian cycle that allows you to go to sleep and go through different phases of deep sleep, where the body restores itself, the brain restores itself, and the body heals itself. And if you're not getting deep sleep at night, you're not healing.
Miss Carlene, thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so very much for coming on, and we do appreciate you. My question is, if you work a third shift, the graveyard shift, how does that, I know it affects your sleep pattern, how does that, or does that contribute to stress or high blood pressure?
It does. One of the recommendations from a study that I read, it says that if you're in that third shift cycle for a period of time, then even if you switch back to getting to a regular, when it's dark at night, you go to sleep, it takes almost a year for your body to get back to that cycle, because your brain has switched. Now, one of the things, there's people who do that, who find that you have anemia, you have a sluggish liver, a fatty liver, because the periods where you have sunlight, where you need to get that vitamin D from the sun and to walk in the grass, you're not getting it. So your body starts to lose certain things, and then it starts to impact your bone quality, your bone density, your liver function, your kidney function, your heart rate. And they find that people who have the third shift often are off with heart rhythm. Their heart rhythm is often irregular. And it takes a lot of effort, because you have to have a certain number of days where you're getting that sunlight to feed your body through your skin. It's very important. And if you're not getting that, and you're not getting sleep on a normal schedule, you have a lot of work to do. It's not a quick and it's back on track. It takes work.
Yeah.
For pastors like ourselves, I'm sorry, Bishop, for pastors like ourselves that are on the line, Carlene, of course, we deal with a lot of stress. I mean, it's a part of the business, if you will. What are your best suggestions or ideas for us to manage stress, apart from diet, of course?
Well, your parishioners won't like this, but you should have one day where you're out of touch, meaning you're really taking a minute or two to relax, where you're not answering your phone is off, your TV is off, and you're dealing in pure quiet. And I know that's hard, but if you don't take care of you, how are you going to take care of your parishioners?
Amen.
No, seriously. My father was a minister, and I watched him, and I've seen him drive fast asleep. We're in the back of the car, and he's fast asleep, and he's driving.
Yeah.
And we're kids in the car, not understanding the ramification of this. But somehow, and we say again, God's providence, that car makes it to our gate. But he's exhausted.
Yeah.
He's exhausted. And then, even though you're called to lead and you're called to deal with people, if you aren't developing your family, nobody's going to come in and do it after you.
Amen.
And I know that sounds harsh, but it's the real truth. And I can take that from my own experience in watching what happened with my father at being a minister, because you think you're committed to the people, but again, not most, because not all parishioners are like this, but you have to take care of you. You have to take care of your wife. You have to take care of your children, and you have to make sure that they're taken care of. And yes, you take care of your parishioners, but there is a responsibility of the parishioners also to take care of you. And that's why when you're in leadership, when you look at the president, he has a minister of security, he has a minister of finance, he has a secretary of defense, he delegates. Now, if you're a leader without people you can delegate to, then your leadership structure is off.
Mhm.
So you're carrying more than one plate that you can manage.
Mm.
And
You're
it
making
makes
sense. You're
No,
making
no.
sense, young lady. Yes, you are. Oh, yeah.
I had a job and I was assigned a number of tasks. And when I put it into a project plan, I was 700% over allocated.
Mm.
So then I had to ask my manager, what is the priority? And she couldn't answer. Then she asked her boss, what is the priority? He didn't have an answer because nobody realized how much work I was doing. And the fact that I was efficient at what I was doing meant that let's give all the big projects to this one person. But this is where burnout comes in, right? Now, you need, I don't care if you're a young minister, no, you need a delegation. You need to be able to delegate. If you don't have the resources to delegate, then you're in a very tough spot. You have some praying and fasting to do to ask the Lord to bring you the resources you need. Because even Moses, his father-in-law told him, this will kill you.
Amen. Amen to that.
And then if this is the temple that you've been assigned to carrying out this work and it's being destroyed because of neglect, it's not going to work. You're not going to finish the work.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to finish it in the strength of your life. Mm-hmm. So there are some decisions that need to be made. And even if you have the impetus to do it, there is work that can be done to get it done. Mm-hmm. I'm going to stop there. Leave you to ask any more questions.
I know that Pastor McKenzie has a question. Okay, but let me just shoot in with this question now. Young lady, seeing that you don't live next door to me, if I want to learn more about this herbal thing, what books can I read?
All right. Now, like I said, food, I recommend this one all the time. The Vintage Guide to Real Food. Mm-hmm. How to recognize what you're actually buying in the supermarket. It's a little challenging to get lately, but it's still out there. You can get used copies. If you look, mine has a lot of paper on it. So.
Do they have a digital copy?
I think they have Kindle as well. But it's a good one to have in paper. Some books are good to have paper, some are good. But if you can, there's the digital is out there as well. There's also one called the Guide to Real Good Food. And it's also pretty good, but I prefer this one. The Vintage Guide to Real Food.
Okay, great.
Because, even if you want to go plant-based because you're thinking of switching to vegetarian, you need to understand what's in your food. Where did your food come from? What's in it? And what am I actually putting? I can't eat soy. So even when people talk about tofu, miso, kempi, and tempeh, I can't eat those things if it's soy-based. I can't.
Yeah.
And because soy has such a high estrogen level, I don't recommend it for men. It gives them breasts and it helps to enlarge the prostate. Amen.
Amen. Yes, thank you very much. Amen. Okay.
That note.
Any questions from the panel before we go on?
Yeah, I'll make a quick comment and then ask a general question. In terms of the asking questions when going to the doctor, that's very, very important. So for me personally, I work with the Medicare population. I work at a primary care office. And one of the things that a lot of patients complain about is the fact that when they go to their PCPs, that they wait an hour and a half to see the doctor and then spend 5 minutes in their care. And many of the questions that they have are either not answered or just simply overlooked. Because we understand that, many may not understand how the medical field works. A lot of the doctors are on a fee-for-service basis. So in other words, the more patients they see, the more money they make, which means they're going to try to get you in and out as quickly as possible. So so what we have now, we don't have offices, we have mills. I call them mills because they try to get you in and out as quickly as possible. So for those that are listening, I agree with you. If that's what you're experiencing, they're obviously valuing quantity over quality, and that's not what you need. We need quality in this time. But I do have a question for you, colleague. And thank you again for being on the panel. So we're talking about herbal meds and, this as being a good means of and how we should make our kitchen the first place that we should look at. And you mentioned metformin, and I know metformin is one of the go-tos for individuals that are on the DM program, diabetes management program. What is your general outlook? What is your general outlook on the efficacy of Western meds?
Not being a doctor. Let me give my disclaimer first. I'm not a doctor.
Understood.
But my exposure and what I've seen is that nobody gets healed anymore. You rarely get medication that fixes anything. And yet there are options to fixing certain illnesses with the right strategy. And one has to commit to making those adaptations to your lifestyle in order to see the benefit. Now, like I said, I earlier mentioned somebody who was misdiagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and it's now type 1. And that's a mess in and of itself. Now, about 3 years ago, I told him to go see an endocrinologist to find out if what he had was reversible. And at that time it was. But his choice, he said, taking a pill is easier. And you have to respect people's choices. Now, taking the pill has gotten him not to a better state, to a worse state. And there's so many people with similar stories where the pill, you've been on this pill for 20 years with high blood pressure, but it is reversible. But are you willing to do your work? And there's so many illnesses that are reversible, but you have to be willing to do your work. Because even if I give you a herb or I recommend a herb to you, I'm not prescribing, I'm making a suggestion. It means then that you're going to use it and you're going to make the lifestyle adaptations. You're going to do certain changes so that you can see the benefit, because the herb is really food. But if I give it to you and you're just drinking it and you say, I see no difference, that I put it in pot, or I don't see any difference. But have you done your work? You know? And I go back to the scripture that's when Jesus, well, don't quote me, where you're at the well and Jesus asked the man, or as Paul or Silas said, wilt thou be made whole? He didn't ask him, do you want to be well? He didn't say, do you want to feel physically better? He said, do you want to be made whole?
Yes.
Because you are, as a being, you're not just physical.
Right.
And sometimes I'm addressing a physical issue that has a mental root. It has an emotional root. So when you look at yourself, and this is where you'd have to do your work, are there other things going on with you? So when I look at the whole person, is it mind, body, soul, spirit, and emotions? Because if your spiritual life is off, other things can be off.
That's facts. Yeah.
If your emotional life is off, other things can be off. And it can create other issues, right? There's a scripture that talks about the fact that when something is wrong with the emotional man, that other man is also sick. Now, I can't force anybody to do their work, But one of the things that we know Jesus is saying to us is that wholeness is available.
Yeah.
And all of us have a calling, all of us, whether you, and not everybody's calling is to be a pastor. Not everybody's calling is to be a missionary, but we all have a calling and we all have a purpose in the church. But we have to get to those things by being whole.
Yeah.
Not crippled, whole. And if the thing that you keep seeing is the thing that is stopping you, then it means you have some work to do. And your pastor can preach to you. He can tell you, I believe there's a calling on your life. But if you don't deal with the root causes, you can derail yourself and we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen multiple people who, there was something for them to do. But because they couldn't deal with the emotional issues, or they couldn't deal with them, they derailed themselves.
Amen.
So even though I can give you a herb that says helps you mentally, helps you with depression, helps you to cope, there is other work. So your medical care is not just a physician that deals with your physical body. And don't be afraid to go see a therapist. I believe churches should have therapists. I believe churches should have psychologists. You may need a therapist. You may need a psychologist. You may need a psychiatrist. You may need a spiritual doctor. You may need an emotional doctor. But healing and wholeness, I can give you the best food to eat, the most healing food to eat. But if your mind is sick, it's not going to help you.
Yeah, makes sense. I know that you're not a doctor, but what do you think about herbal supplements?
My personal preference is when you take the raw herb, meaning you get either the dried mint or the dry herb, rather than a tablet in a capsule that you swallow. And I'll give you my reason. When the Lord made us, he gave us this tongue, and it can taste salt, sour, sweet, bitter, umami, and there are a bunch of other tastes in there. When you drink the sirisi, and that bitter registers in your mouth,
Yes,
it also registers with the brain and the digestive system. So there's a reason that the scripture says drink or eat bitter herbs or drink bitter herbs. It is good for the body, because you need that response through the body to get the benefit. So if you don't like the taste, put on the big girl underwear, buckle up, and swallow it, because you need to taste that bitterness. You need to taste this. And one of the things that we recognize about our diet today, it has 2 of the 5 major tastes: salt and sweet. So we don't like it if it's not sweet. If it's bitter, if it's sour, Lord, how you drink that? I'm sorry. I know that everybody is Jamaican, but how do you drink that? But those things are important. I don't like how mushrooms taste. Yet mushrooms have a life of their own that is brain food.
Oh yeah.
Right? I have to have my meat protein. But hey, if you grill the mushroom, or you grind it up and you make a mushroom burger, hey, there's benefit in that. If I can do without bread for a week.
Yes. Amen.
If I can put the white rice aside. I know it's not all, I'm not answering the question about medicine, pharmaceuticals, but pharmaceuticals have their place. Don't get me wrong, they have their place. But there are certain medications out there that don't help you get better. And when you go to the doctor and you say, this is what's happening, you get another pill to counteract that side effect. And you say, okay, this is the side effect I'm getting from the 2. So you get number 3. And then when you go back again and you say, this is what's happening, you get number 4. And I've been to people's homes where you look in there and they bring you to the bathroom And they open the medicine and they're like, I'm tired of all of this.
I'm into that. Okay, because of time, can we just jump on to question number 2? Okay, question number 2 is, as an individual, what are some of the ways that we can start to grow our own natural resource of fruits, herbs, and vegetables?
All right, now a resource I love is rareseeds.com because you get non-GMO seeds from them. And one of the things you see a lot of your Caribbean fruits and vegetables. So first, can I get the seed for what I want to grow? And I start with tomatoes. But tomatoes, there's so many YouTube videos about how to prune them, trim them so you can grow them. And you can buy water baskets. I'm sorry, I was supposed to bring one over as a prop, but it's a little way away. But it's a little bag. They're called agricultural bags. And if you remember in the Caribbean, if you wanted to grow potato, you could use a crocus bag, right? You can get these bags. They're not expensive. I got about 30 of them well, this is earlier. Everything has escalated in price. But you can grow them in bags inside a house near a window with a lot of sunlight. And keep the window cracked a little bit, especially so that the sun comes in and that warmth comes in, so that your soil doesn't get fungusy, a whole lot of mushrooms and stuff. But you start them in little containers if you want, or you start them in that big bag. And you can grow, one of the things historically that you look at Caribbean food or the food of slaves from a historical perspective was okra, tomato, beans, and corn. That's what they were given the opportunity to grow. When the slave owners did give us stipend, it was flour. Now, nobody can live on flour alone. And as I mentioned before, you take that bean, soak it overnight in hot water, you boil the water, pour in it, soak it, take off the skin. And then you have something in the center of the bean that now can become the thing that you use, or you cook it and then mash it, and you use that with the flour to make dumpling. Now you're not just eating pure white flour, you're eating something that has a little bit more protein and nutrients in it from the bean. We used to do that with corn as well. So our staples, and then for us it was dry codfish. You would soak the codfish and you make your codfish fritters, but codfish fritters again also was not just plain white flour. So you can get the agricultural baskets, you can grow tomato, you can grow okra, you can grow beans, and you can grow corn, but you need a very big basket for corn because corn grow in stalk, and so does beans. But with those things, you have enough of the food chain to be sustainable.
Carly, are you familiar with the towers? And do you recommend them?
The pods, meaning the hydroponics.
Yes.
The
I call them towers. Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't tried it. What I did send Philip, though, was a video of a young man who did his entire garden in his garage. I sent it to him earlier this week, where he created a garden in his garage with solar lights. And so there are a lot of ways you can grow your own food, even if you don't have the space, like with everything that's going on, you have to ask yourself, you have to ask yourself what your priorities are, one. And then is the priority to eat healthier? And which space in my house could I sacrifice to support that priority? It's just like your purpose. If this is your purpose, what sacrifices do I have to make to support that purpose? Because if this is the thing I'm called to, then am I committed to it?
Mm-hmm. Okay, got you. Colleen, it's been said that monkeys don't suffer from stress, because they eat a lot of bananas. Now, question, young lady, does bananas reduce stress?
I can't answer that one, but I know that the riper your banana is the more sugar is in it. And I know that I'm not saying eat the green banana, no, but when it has a little bit of green in it, it has more potassium in it, and the heart is able to absorb it. Now, there's a thing about brown sugar or brown, when the banana starts to get spotted, that they say where you can eat it and it helps with belly fat and brown fat in the body. My concern is if you're diabetic or you're having diabetic related issues, that's when it has a lot of sugar.
Okay.
I'm not going to recommend that somebody who's struggling with blood sugar eat an overripe banana.
Gotcha. Then, Colleen, what would you say are the top 10, herbs or like that they use for medicinal purposes?
The ones that we were used to, or just kitchen? Give me a category.
The one that we're used to.
All right, I have a list. Let's go. Hang on a second. In the Caribbean, we had a bunch of bitters for different things. Some were laxatives, some were pain relievers, but we had rice bitters. You know what rice bitters was? It was this plant that had these white pods that look like rice.
Okay.
And people used them for infertility, blood pressure, diabetes, you name it. And it worked. And grandma used to put it in rum, soak it for 100 days. Hey, that was grandma's medicine, and she lived to 96.
Amen.
And these days, people are struggling to make it to 70. So seriously, we can laugh at grandma's medicine, but it worked for her, and she was walking. These days, people get to 65 and they need a cane, they need a walker, or they're in a wheelchair. Now, if you want to sustain yourself, there are some things you have to do to maintain those bones and those muscles. We also had soursop leaves that we used to drink, which was good for the nerves, which helped with stress, because there's a significant amount of stress or pressure or that is done or created with the nerves when you're under significant stress. And one of the things that soursop leaves does is that it helps to manage that. The soursop leaf tea is now available in bags. It's coming from Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, and it's all over Amazon.com. I recommend that you get the leaf, not the powder, because people tend to adulterate the powder. They mix it with something else so that they can make more money. So if you can see the leaf, I think the dried leaf is better. You can powder it yourself if you have the right kind of blender. We used to have also orange skin and tangerine skin, where you used to take that and put it in water with a little ginger, and that was your tea. And you could even put this sorrel or hibiscus is what they call it here. And you make your tea, and that's good for your digestion and your blood pressure. We also had, of course, ginger. Nutmeg is good for nerves. Nutmeg, if you can get it in the shell, buy it when it has the mace on it. Don't buy it when you see the nutmeg and it doesn't have that red or brownish thing on the outside of the shell. You're being cheated, because that's how mace and they charge you significant amount of money for mace over nutmeg. I don't know why. But your nutmeg can go in your mashed potatoes, coffee. It can go in your curry. It can go in your stew. It can go in your baked goods. And it's good for you. It's good for your body. It also helps the nerve, and it also helps the brain. Cinnamon is good for the blood sugar, specifically Ceylon cinnamon. Ceylon.
What's the difference?
One, it's the type of cinnamon and it's the effect it has on the blood sugar. Not all cinnamon works the same way. This particular type, because for instance, when you look at pepper, hot peppers, there are over 1,000 varieties globally. Mm-hmm. But only certain peppers carry an ingredient to alleviate arthritis pain. Not all. They all have a little bit of it, but some peppers have more of it that makes the using it as a medicine more significant.
Mm-hmm.
Such as cayenne pepper?
Yes.
Cayenne pepper, it has, I cannot pronounce the word, capsaicin. Don't quote me, somebody else. But it has that ingredient that helps with arthritis. And when you mix it, funny, the cayenne pepper with the turmeric or black pepper, and you make a tea, it does help to alleviate joint pain.
Ms. Carly.
Don't put a whole teaspoon of hot pepper in this thing and then tell me I couldn't drink it. You're crazy. Yes, sir.
I'm just saying that's a whole lot of things to remember. What's the thing you say for the memory again? What you recommend?
Rosemary. But
the memory.
Bishop, where is your pen and paper?
I'm gonna watch the rerun.
That's if he remembers to watch the rerun.
There you go.
And then think about bay leaf. You remember what bay leaf was?
Yes.
You can we used to have bay rum.
Yeah.
We used to put bay leaf in fish. You used to get the bay leaf tea for different things, right? And bay leaf was not something your house was without back then. Yeah. And bay leaf has a number of medicinal properties, but again, it's missing from your kitchen because we don't cook with it as much. But the bay leaf in the bay rum is good for headaches. If you put the bay leaf inside rum or vodka, or if you can get Everclear where you live and then dilute it with a little water, then your bay leaf becomes something that is good, for your rubbing alcohol that you made at home. So you don't have to worry that you can't get it. You can make your own. It's not hard to make. And then if you want that pimento in it, drop a dozen pimento seeds in there for say an 8-ounce bottle. Because remember, these things that we now buy were things that grandma used to make and somebody now makes it and sells it to you. But if you buy the constituents and put it together, you have it on hand when you need it, and it may be stronger because it may have less water.
Are you okay with the Jamaican rum cake? Just asking.
As much of it as you want.
Oh, okay, just asking.
As much of it as you want. Now, when you put on that 30 pounds after Christmas is done. That's your problem.
I get it.
No, but remember, rum cake, let's just be serious for a minute. It has, if you made it the old-fashioned way, it has the eggs, it didn't have only flour when your parents used to make it. They used some kind of root veg. They either put sweet potato or something else. Now, potato pudding, no. But they made it so it's because you can make the rum cake like it's a pudding, or you can make it like it's a cake. Now, when people chose to make it more like a pudding, it's because there's less flour in it. Nice. So if you do that, and then you can use applesauce and some of the other consistent substitutes, you get something that's a little bit healthier with a little less sugar.
Got you.
You said no to the potato pudding?
No, I didn't. No. Mint. you have your sweet mint, you had your tree mint,
Yeah.
you had the black mint. Each one had its different purposes. So there are a lot of things. And then if you go online, like when you go to Home Depot and Lowe's right now, you will see the mints for sale, the sage, the mint, the tomato. You can even start there because sometimes the plant itself is $2, or $4. You'll need a container and a bag of soil, organic soil preferably. If you can't afford it, go cheaper, and a bigger pot. Save some of your pots. If you buy water in the big bottles, cut the top off, put some holes in the bottom, get a tray, an old plate that's chipped, put the soil inside the water bottle, and transplant that $4 plant.
Mm.
And then when your tomato grows, you have to use something to keep it growing up. But one of the things to consider as well is if you trim it back and you feed your soil those little sticks for nitrogen, you'll see greener leaves coming back and it will grow back and bear again. So you don't always have to discard the plant. It can regenerate.
Beautiful.
All right, so I gave you 10 herbs, Bishop.
Oh,
Anything
yeah,
else?
Colleen, hear me. Now, I know that we only have 9 minutes left, but which medicinal herb would you say is the most potent? Out of all that you've mentioned, all the different herbs, which one would you say is the most potent?
But that's an open-ended question. For what purpose?
Oh, okay. Pain.
For what purpose?
Pain.
Now, pain?
Physical pain. Yes, joint pain.
I didn't mention it, but it's actually the ganja.
That's what I thought.
I didn't mention it, but it's actually because there are different grades to pain and there are different sources of pain. Now, and whenever you get older and you go to the doctor and you say, I have pain in my joints, the first thing he says it's arthritis.
Yes.
But what type of arthritis are you suffering from? Is it rheumatoid? Is it osteoarthritis? What is happening? Is the pain really just inflammation because of your diet?
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's too much sugar and too much bulk in your diet, and I'm not saying fiber bulk, I'm saying garbage bulk. When your body can't eliminate it, you're going to have joint pain. You're going to have what we call inflammation. Now, I can put a bag of weed on it with a ton of rum or Everclear. Doesn't mean you're going to get rid of any of that pain because the source of the pain is not specific to the joint. It's specific to your gut. Now, if you clear your gut, you'll get rid of some of that pain.
Gotcha.
About for relaxation.
I didn't hear the full question.
About for relaxation, what's good for relaxation?
I like lavender. I like smelling lavender because I believe in aromatherapy. I've used aromatherapy on Mom and it works really, really well. So I like the lavender for helping to relieve stress. Lavender is one of those essential oils that you can use directly on the skin without diluting it, but dilute it if necessary. You get out the shower, you have some jojoba oil, little olive oil, mix it with some lavender oil and start anointing yourself. It's not a bad idea to put those oils on your skin and bless yourself. Pray over yourself. Say, Lord, heal my hurts. And when you're talking about healing your hurts, you're not just talking about physical hurts. You're talking about emotional ones. Sometimes you meet people and they're in pain, but the pain that you're seeing or sensing is not physical. But if you're not praying for yourself, if you're not caring, because this is where self-care, if you are a child of God, then self-care can go deeper for you because you have access to something that a lot of people don't have access to. And don't feel ridiculous anointing yourself. Don't feel ridiculous feeding yourself. Just you are, healing is the children's bread.
Yes.
And so you have access. Mix those things. If you have to get a bottle and mix those things for yourself and keep it in the bathroom. And when you step out the shower, you put it on wet skin and then you pat yourself dry. Do that. And then just take, before you put on your clothes and run back out the door, take 15 minutes, 20 minutes in the bed and just inhale that and just clear your mind and your thoughts. And you just see, and just cast your cares literally on the Lord. Say, Lord, I am giving you this problem. I'm giving you this situation. And then just move on and just say, don't get up off the bed and take it back up. Your foot hit the floor and you're back to, what am I going to do with this? Didn't you just give it to God? And literally you have to talk yourself through that process.
Amen.
This is very similar to the advice that therapists give their clients, and they're not Christians. They're literally saying, if there's nothing you can do about this problem right now, why are you going to worry about it?
Amen. Colleen, unfortunately, we only have 4 minutes left. Okay, after all we've said, okay, what do you think, young lady, we should take away from this conversation tonight? Colleen.
I want each and every one of you to understand that self-care, and I emphasize self-care because it's your first line of medicine. It's your first line of therapy. If you're not taking care of yourself, and like I said, that bath with aromatherapy, that food that you're eating, that minute to relax, that minute with your family, because, just another point here, if you're neglecting your spouse in any way, you're a child of God, you can't say you don't know. Because if you have the Holy Spirit, he's telling you you're neglecting your spouse. So until you pay attention to those things, you're going to carry guilt. And that is one door the enemy loves to have open. So take care of your mind, take care of your body, keep your emotions in check, keep your spirit focused on God. Keep praying. It's called meditation out there. Meditate if that's what you want to call it. But your mind, your body, your soul. What I see, the verse fails me, but it says, "I pray that your soul be at rest as you're at rest," or however it goes. But you want your soul to be at peace. You want your mind to be at peace. You want to experience the wholeness that God has for you. And what I found is that I can give people herbs. There's a plethora of herbs out there, but you have to be willing to do your work. And your work is through the Holy Spirit that you have access to.
Thank you much, young lady. Okay, Dr. Ben, what should we take away from tonight's conversation?
Wholeness. Will thou be made whole? I'm striving towards wholeness, that balance in every aspect of my life. Thank you so much, Colleen. This was wonderful.
Thank you, woman for God. Okay, Pastor McKenzie, what should we take away?
I want to go back to what we started off earlier, the importance of asking questions, doing your research. Don't just taking what somebody tells you as the truth. Really ask questions, and it's your body. Make sure you take care of it as well.
Amen. Bishop Wolliston.
Yeah, Bishop, there's a lot that we can take from this. We thank God for Carleen. It's definitely an eye-opener for all of us, but my takeaway would be this. Self-care is our responsibility. Healthcare should be our priority.
Thank you much, sir. Thank you much. Colleen Reed, thank you very much for weighing in tonight. Thank you for your expertise and your knowledge, young lady. Thank God for Dr. Ben. Always a pleasure, young lady. Pastor McKenzie, thank you much. And Bishop Dr. Neville Wolliston. This is Bishop Scott saying, as Paul said, meat for the belly and belly for the meat. But let us be careful how we eat. God bless you richly. See you next week, same time.